Alright, so today we're going to be going over how to make the AI function in the Byte Lynx editor. So, first step is we're going to need to create an AI card. Note that we can't edit anything until we've created a card to edit. So first we're going to make the most basic kind of AI action, basic kind of AI attack, a lance attack. There are a number of different types, and we'll get back to these later. So each AI card is one action that the AI will take, and then there's a number of different ways you can specify how that action will function, which again, we'll get back to later. Now that we have our AI card, we can make a deck to hold that card. So we make a deck for our red AI. And then once we have our deck, we can add any number of cards to that deck. Right now we just have the one. So, note that with each of these cards, you can jump to editing that card, and we'll switch tabs for you if you want to check how any of these things work. So, now that we have a deck, we need an AI to use that deck. So we'll create an AI for our red player. There's a number of responses that are on by default. We can leave those on and give it a deck. It'll target our player. And for demonstration purposes, I'm just going to have it go very fast so that we can see it in action. So now that we have our AI, we need to attach it to a player. So we go over to player red, and we give it an AI controller. Note that you can have more than one AI operating on the same player at the same time if you need one color to be doing multiple things at once. This is particularly useful for recorded actions, which we'll get back to later. Now again, so that our AI can do things for testing purposes, we're just going to give this player a bunch of resources. So, now that we can go through and double check our work, so we see that our player has an AI, we jump to that, that AI has a deck, that deck has some cards, and those cards are set up the way that we want them to. We're adding HQs to attack, so it should be aiming an attack at our enemy HQ. So now we can go back to our map and test it. I didn't set the player, so there's an error for that. Not a major one, it defaults to player blue. Yeah, so as we can see, now our AI is building lances and attacking us. So that is the basic way that you get an AI card into a deck, onto an AI, and get your AI to start doing things. So go back to the map. So now I'm going to go back and expound on some of the details that I skimmed over, helping you get set up earlier. First, we're going to go over some of our other card type options. So as we see here, there's a bunch of different types. Some of these are fairly simple, so I'm just going to describe them, and then for the more complicated ones, I'm going to show you how they work. So, chill. This means the AI doesn't do anything for a while. Good for giving the player a break. To connect to unpowered, if there are unpowered buildings around the map, it will build wires to them. Get resources. Well, we should show this one in action. So this card will cause the AI to build wires over to any resource nodes they can find, and build some mines on them. Let's have it build one mine. And now we get into the couple of these that are a little more complicated is the assault platform attack. We're going to make one of those. These have a lot of options that I'll dig more into later, but the most important one is that in order for this card to work, you need to give it a platform. So, how do we give it a platform? So we go in the editor, we build a platform, say I want it to attack wanted to build one of these tridents. A bunch of lances on it. So I build that in the editor. And I go here and I click Add Platform. And I select the whole platform. I can also set what directions the AI this platform is usable in. So see, this platform, all its lances are pointing to the east, so I would like this side of the platform to hit the enemy. If I want other sides to hit, I could flip these toggles to make that happen. So we're going to add that. We're not going to change any of this other stuff for the moment. I'm going to go on and create a recording. Create one of those. So this one, for doing if you're getting AI to do something very specific. So like say I want the AI to build over here and make like a little smiley face. I could start my recording. Begin. Build some wires out. You see, this is showing me the rate the AI gets resources at, so that I don't accidentally do something that the AI can't afford. You can make modifiers to make buildings free if you want to be able to record like more dynamic action here. So we're just going to go in, add some eyes to our creepy little smiley face, and then hit C to complete. And that's our recorded action. So now, in our AI deck, go ahead and remove all those lance attacks. Let's have the AI get some resources, play our recording, and then attack with a platform. Now we can go over to test and see what that looks like. Builds that one miner as expected. Now it goes out, and at the same rate that we built the smiley face and in the same place, builds our little smiley face. Alright, so that's the various kinds of cards. I'm going to now go over some of the options you have when customizing these cards. So every card has these two options at the front, which is discard after use and is interruptible. If there's something you want the AI to do only one time ever, discard after use is a good option for that. Normally, the AI plays through its entire deck and then restarts, reshuffles, and does them again. So any cards that have this set to true won't go back into the deck. And there's interruptible. The AI has a number of responses, which we'll also get more into later. And this means that responses can happen while this card is being executed, and they can, optionally, interrupt this action. So anything that isn't super important, you generally want to leave them as interruptible so the AI can defend itself, fire its laser, do various things like that. Alright, let's look at platform attack, some of our options here. Now, okay, attack cards have some targeting options. So, is HQ attack. This is a special thing that means that this platform will be pathed directly into the enemy HQ. So if you want to give the player a big threat, something that will kill them immediately if they don't deal with it, is HQ attack is a good way to go. These are some more nuances as to how exactly this attack functions. How fast it gets built, how much damage it tries to do, generally how powerful it is. The AI will reuse platforms after a while if they're still intact. It'll keep sending them to the enemy, but that can be turned on or off, and there's various specifiers for how that works. Yes, so, targeting. So, generally speaking, any card that targets an enemy picks a location to attack, assuming you didn't use an HQ attack, in which case it will always target the enemy's HQ and pass directly to that. Otherwise, Yeah, if this is true, otherwise it builds a list of places it might like to attack. As long as you have this true, as long as you have this set to true, it will add all enemy HQs as options of places it might attack. And this adds hints that you can set on the AI. I'll show you how to do that in a moment. And then so it combines these. So if these are both true, it combines these two lists and then picks one at random. You need at least one of these to be true so that the AI has a place to attack, or else the attack will fail. As long as I'm here, I'll just go ahead and mark this person as the human player so I stop getting warnings. Alright, so attack hints. What are those? You can set attack targets. So click this and say, okay, I want the AI to target this wire. I want to set an attack over there. So these are, oh, right. So you can select any number of locations, and it will and the AI will path towards those locations when doing an attack, when it picks one at random. If you have one place that you really want it to be more likely to attack, you can click the same place more than once. So this place, so there are now 14 options, and like 10 out of 14 times we're going to pick this guy, because it has 10 points. And then if you don't like any of those points, you can just clear them, like so. Alright, so now we're going to talk about how the AI can ramp up difficulty over time. So if we go to our AI, talk about, controlling AI difficulty. So the most important slider for controlling how difficult your AI is this one right here. It's time between actions. So you see this being 0.45, that means the AI will build 2 buildings per second. This is generally very fast and makes for a very difficult AI. But you can bump it up all the way to 10 seconds, and the AI will barely ever do anything. Now, the AI doesn't actually start out the game acting this quickly. It slowly increases its time. It slowly increases its action speed over time. So this here is over the first 5 minutes, the AI goes from half speed to full speed. So essentially, in most levels where you have like a generic fight, you want the AI to gradually get faster and faster and offer more and more of a challenge to encourage the player to go quickly. And here you can control how long that process takes. Now, if you don't want this to be a factor, you want the AI to be consistent from the get-go, just set this to 0, and the AI will be going at full speed from the word go. Now, the AI can also change the contents of its deck over time. So if there's like a particularly powerful move, and you want the AI to spend more time, generally, as the map goes on, you want the AI to spend more time attacking and less time doing other miscellaneous actions. So we have a mechanism built in to let you do that. So you have some card that is generally the more aggressive card, though you could also use this to power the AI down over time, that will get added into the deck. So you can select any of your cards to be the card that gets ramped to. And this card goes in and replaces either a chill card, meaning the AI is doing nothing, or a get resources card, because you generally want the AI to spend less time doing that as the mission goes on. So these control. Now, perhaps you want to make sure that the AI always gives the player a break at some point. So you might want to keep some number of chill cards around as a minimum number in the deck, and it'll stop replacing those cards with the ramping card once it gets down to this level. Or you can just have it be 0, and it'll replace all of them. Alright, so that is it for how you ramp up the AI difficulty over time. Though you can also do things with map actions if you want to replace the AI's deck or do various other fancy things to change how it works over time. Alright, so now we're going to go over AI responses. There are a number of different actions the player can take that prompt the AI to do various things, generally to defend itself. So, here we have HQ threats. So, when the player attacks something within some distance of their HQ, you can have this be 1, which just means the HQ itself took damage. Or out further if you want it to respond when the enemy isn't, like, quite on top of its HQ. So if you set this to true, then whenever that happens, the AI will add a card to its deck. So you can put some sort of attack in here, and that'll help the AI respond immediately. Now, this is a very special card, because for these specific response cards, instead of using the normal target options from your card, it will target wherever the damage came from that caused it to think that that its headquarters was being threatened. So this is very useful for having the AI protect itself. Now, generally, this is a hard replace, because generally, if the AI is under attack, you want it to respond immediately. So this means that the AI will interrupt whatever it was doing and immediately respond to the threat. But you can also have it add something into its deck to do in the future, or even modify its base deck, which means that each time it shuffles, that card will still be there. If you want to permanently modify the AI's behavior based on one of these responses. Now, most of these responses act pretty similar. Well, okay, so then we have the Solar Ram response. This one's special. There aren't a lot of options here. This is just, will the AI fire the Solar Ram in response to its HQ being damaged? This is something you may have noticed in the campaign. It's on most of the missions. Now, it can also respond to player losses. This is, oftentimes you don't want to give your player too hard of a time, and if they're already losing, you want to give them a break. So this detects that some number of player buildings, which you can specify here, have lost power recently. Now, all of these timers for what recently counts as are all set by time to reach thresholds. So if the player lost this many buildings within a 5-second period, then something will happen. The default use for this is to just insert front a chill action so that the player has suffered a bunch of losses, and then so that whenever the AI finishes its current plan, so that it doesn't do something that looks kind of silly and abandon a platform it's half built or something. So this is why we do insert front instead of hard replace. Then it will take a break, do nothing for a while. And this one's special because if the player cuts off their own wires by accident, immediately repowers them or something, maybe we don't want the AI to take a break. So this controls that the AI will remove that response from the queue if the player regains their losses. Now, this is the AI responding to its own lost buildings. If you want it, the most common use for this would be have a reconnect unpowered, so that way if the player does a big cutoff, the AI will try and counter that by probably reconnecting those buildings from a different angle, or something along those lines. Of course, you can have it do whatever you want. Rotate lances periodically. These are some of those things that kind of in the response category, but not exactly. They don't really fit in with normal AI actions. So, the AI will occasionally rotate one of its lances to attack the player, if you have this on. So these all control how often it does that, how many lances it can check. This generally doesn't need to be a high number to start being impactful. And if you turn this up very high, the AI will look more robotic and snapping to face lances to attack the player, which is generally less of a fun experience. So you want to keep these numbers kind of low, but it can make the AI appear smarter and a bit more fun to play against. Now, Sneaky Demolish. This is a feature I'm not sure we actually should have put in the editor, but we did, so here it is. So, when you're doing a battle with lances only, if you're doing a battle without platforms particularly, but also just on certain kinds of maps, you can end up clogged, where there's where you have a bunch of buildings and they have a bunch of buildings. Maybe you've accidentally given a bunch of buildings to the enemy, and now they have this big break of defenses that you can't get through anymore, and the game just kind of stalls out. So to fix that, you can activate Sneaky Demolish. Here the AI will track how many buildings it's gained that it didn't have during map setup, like how many non-wire buildings that it's gained, and if it has more than this threshold, it'll start demolishing them whenever they're not on screen. If the player isn't looking at them, it'll just sneakily get them out of the way and clear up the map so that the player, when they look back, oh look, I have an opportunity, a place to attack. How did that happen? Most people don't notice. It's, sneaky. Alright, and those are the various ways you can have the AI respond to the player. Alright, that is it for our AI explanation for the Byte Lynx editor. Thank you for watching.